as far as I remember, I had a good childhood. I don't, I remember having a good childhood. And it changed when I turned about 7 or 8. My mom got married and I got a dad for the first time, my stepdad, Joe. And he was a Marine who came back, like many, broken, struggling, and his medication was alcohol. He self-medicated through alcohol. So, and that seemed perfectly normal to me. And what wasn't normal was my mom and my stepdad used to lock me in closets when I was a kid, when I was bad, and which seemed perfectly normal at the time. But emotionally, it was just traumatizing for me. It just really, made me scared and frightened and just unsure, as a human being. And I found ways to make myself feel better, crime and drinking. And when I started drinking when I was, 8 years old, and, it progressed until I was 10. When I was 10 years old, I threw rocks at a train. And in the state of California, that's a felony. And so I was taken from my home and I spent 10 days in juvenile hall. And it was the very first time I'd ever been outside of my house, ever spent the night somewhere, ever participated in another community.
And you were how old?
I was 11 at the time. I went to juvenile hall.
Like I got a 13. So you're a baby still.
Yeah. Yeah. My daughter's 13. It's like, I went to juvenile hall when I was 11. I talked to the other kids, like, hey, how do you guys dealing with, the locking in the closets and the living in the backyard and all the weird things that were happening to me. And these were the bad kids, right? The juvenile hall kids were telling me, yeah, that's not right. Like that's child like it's terrible. And so for the first time I realized that, because everyone, I was seeing all these shrinks and psychologists and all these people because of my problems, my emotional issues, all the things that were wrong with me. And when I got there and the guys told me that, I was like, wait a minute, maybe there's something wrong with what's going on in my life. And I went and saw my counselor and I said, hey, this is what's happening. And I don't think she believed me because it seemed crazy. Like you don't live in the backyard. I was like, no, I live in a tool shed. But she gave me some advice, which I'll never forget. She said, listen, if you keep doing stuff like this, they're going to take you from your home. And that was the message I heard, not the other stuff. So I went home and committed as many crimes as I could until they came and took me from the home. So when I was 11, I became a ward of the state of California, and they became my parents. And I started in, group homes and foster homes and working my way up. And the only, I thought it was a game, to be honest with you. I thought I'd found the secret formula to surviving, traumatic things. So I'd go to a new home that have new parents and a new brothers and sisters. But if I didn't like it and I wasn't comfortable, I always remembered what that counselor told me, which is, if you commit crimes, they'll come take you. And to me, it became a game. I just kept, if I didn't like it, I'd commit a crime, they'd take me, send me to a new home. And that worked great for a while until I'd done enough and gone through enough homes that they were sending me to work camps and lockdown camps and, harder incarcerations.
How old were you by then, roughly?
12 and a half.
That's crazy. That is honestly crazy.
Yeah. But you think, your brain's not formed when you're 12 years old.
100%. Yeah. I'm not saying on your part. I'm just saying as an adult thinking of a 12 and 11-year-old.
Sure. Yeah.
It's just like, how do you not? This is crazy. That's just,
It's mind boggling. But, here's the thing is my mom suffers from mental health issues and she's never talked about it. My stepdad, had PTSD and trauma from the war. He never talked about it. They all just bottled it up. And then through their parenting and through their actions, it was passed down to me. And I didn't know any of it. I was just trying to be a kid and trying to fit in, like kids do.
Yeah.
But when I was almost 13, I met Bob Shamrock.
Yeah.
And the Shamrock Boys Ranch was legendary in the juvenile hall system. It was like where the tough kids went. It was like the end of the line. Just before you went to youth prison, you stopped there. It was kind of terrifying, to be honest with you. The way it was portrayed, I was like, oh man, that's the place you do not want to go. But then when I met Bob Shamrock, he was the nicest guy. And he was just, totally straightforward and sweet and like, say it like it is. And so I sat down, he came to interview me. I sat down, I went to tell him my story, my sob story. And he's like, no, nope, you can stop there. He's like, we don't do games. We don't tell lies. It's not about bullshit. He's like, it's about being a man. And he's the first guy to ever man talk me. And it just made all the difference. Like my brain instantly went, okay, I've been doing this wrong. There's other ways out there, and this guy's got those ways. And so we left the interview, and I was like, oh man, there's no way he's gonna take me. I'm a total, screw up. Like, I think by then I already had 3 felonies. So, I just figured, they'll send me to the next place and I'll keep doing what I'm doing. But he did take me and, picked me up, a month later, drove me to his ranch, and it was the family I was looking for. He had 20 kids. We were all brothers, and he ran it like a family. Like, it was just like, like a regular family. We had chores, we had responsibilities. If you did good, you were rewarded. If you did bad, you were punished. Like, there wasn't anything crazy. There wasn't anything that didn't make sense. And I just fell in love with it. It was the first time that a man had stepped up and been a father to me.
I would say I'd be a father figure.
Yeah, that was it. He was just, he was a dad, and that's what I needed.
I love that you said that, because anybody could be a father, and not many men could be a dad.
Yeah.
So I love my dad. I love that you said that.
Yeah.
Sorry, continue.
Well, I was going to say it just opened up a whole new world for me. And he was he was like, these are the rules. This is how it works. And you guys are boys, and you're going to have lots of energy. So we play sports, and we work out, and we make ourselves strong. That's what men are. And I was like, okay. So when I was 13, I started lifting weights. Like, and he encouraged it, and he, got us weights, and it was how you did things. And yeah, I lifted weights for 25 straight years because of that, without fail. Yeah. It just changed who I was. And I tried my best there. Unfortunately, I still had emotional problems. I still, did drugs. I still got in trouble. And eventually I would get taken out of that. And I actually stole a car. I was just telling the story to our guests here. I was walking by a car one night. I'd been drinking with my friends. Car's running. It's cold outside. And I go, oh, well, I'll just hop in here and drive myself home.
How old were you?
It's probably maybe 15 by then. And I jumped in, and, of course, the guy called right away because he was warming up his car for work.
Yeah.
And, the cops pulled me over, and I was arrested. But the result of that was they took me out of the boys' ranch. They thought, well, this is not enough supervision. If he's able to do these things, he needs to go to higher security. And I was taken away from Bob. And, he fought for me and did everything he could. But this stayed with my parents, and they were able to make the final decision. And so I left there, and I realized I had screwed up, and I realized that that's where I really truly wanted to be. And so I went to work camp, and I went to different places, and I worked as hard as I could to get back to, Susanville is where we lived at the time, where the boys' ranch was.
Yeah.
And eventually I got back. And when I got back, I got my girlfriend pregnant before I left. So when I was 16, a little over 16, I had my son, little Frank. And
how old's little Frank now?
Little Frank turned 33 on November the 28th. We just celebrated his birthday. He just got married, and he's a grown man.
At 33?
At the time, he was a little baby, and I was a punk kid trying to get my life together. I still remembered the principles and the things that Bob taught me. I still worked out. I still.
When was your intro into martial arts at that point?
It wasn't until I got out of prison.
How old are you when you first started?
I would have been 22, almost 22.
So you only started at 22.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, so when I went back to Susanville, I worked 3 jobs. I went to high school. I had a wife. I had a son, and that carried on for a little while. until her family came and took her one day, because my reputation around town, I was on the front page of our small town's newspaper when I got in trouble, because I'd been in so much trouble. So rightfully so, her family came and took her one day, and my son, from the house I'd rented, from all the stuff I'd provided. And, that was my goal, was to be a dad. Like, my goal was to be a father, because I didn't have one. And I saw what a dad could do. I saw I saw the value. And so that was my whole goal. And when that was taken away, I just fell apart. And I went, talk about commitment. I really, tripled down on my commitment to crime. And what happened was 20 felonies later, I was caught, and they sent me to youth prison for 6 years. And that was when I was 18. So when I was 21, I got out. But during prison, Bob never left. He wrote me letters. He came in and visited. He sent me stuff. He continued to mentor and guide me, even though I'd screwed everything up, even though I was in prison. And so I took his advice every day in prison. I worked in the kitchen so I could have extra food. I lifted weights every single day. I studied bodybuilding. I went to college. Like, I really tried to do everything humanly possible to get myself back, to have some value in society and to be a dad. And then, when I was in Folsom, which was my last couple of years, he came to me and he said, "Hey, this brand new sport is starting. It's called," at the time, it was called No Holds Barred.
Yeah.
The brand new sport is starting, and you'd be great at it. And your brother's doing it. And he really pitched me on it. He said it was kind of like professional wrestling, but tougher. And I was like, "Oh, I love professional wrestling. I could totally do that." I'd never seen
a little different, a little different.
I'd never seen it. I'd never seen it on TV. Like, I didn't even know what was happening. But he presented it. I always trusted and believed him. I believed in his mentorship, and so I said, "Okay, I'll yes." And so I paroled April 4th of 1994 from Folsom Prison, and Bob picked me up. And 2 days later, he drove me down to the martial arts studio, the dojo, which at the time was Lion's Den, with my brother Ken.
Yeah.
And he dropped me off and gave me the most dadly advice you could ever give somebody, which is never give up and don't show them you're scared. And that was it. I walked in, and Ken beat the hell out of me. And then
what's the age difference from you and Ken?
9 years.
So he was 9 years old. That's a big gap.
Yeah. Well, he'd already played college football and went to the Olympic trials for wrestling. Like, he was a monster. And I was like I was kind of a nerdy kid, but I had good genetics. Like, I was, I packed on, 20, 25 pounds of muscle from all this lifting and eating and focusing. And so when I got out of prison, I was about 190 pounds, just solid muscle, no drugs, no nothing, just pure, good muscle. And then, it took me about 2.5 weeks to heal up from the beating, because he can beat me. He didn't want me there. I was a punk kid straight from prison, and he was going to, beat me into submission so I would quit. But, I took my dad's advice, and, I didn't even know you could tap. During the tryout, Ken's like turning my knee backwards, and I'm going, like, just literally screaming, because he's tearing my knee tendons out. And out of my ear, I hear Jason DeLucia go, "Hey, did anybody tell him he could tap?" And there's like this, I hear this conversation going on. They're like, "Tap, no." So I just start screaming, "Tap, tap." I didn't even know what tapping meant. That's how unknowledgeable about all of it I was.